It's 2 o'clock, time now for Inside the Courtroom, the Senzo Mewa Medical Rap. I'm Linda Mnisi. Always a pleasure to have you with us this beautiful Sunday afternoon. As always, the defense continuing with their case around the theme of police officers. So, our poll question for you today, we want to know what you make of Muzi Sibiya's assault allegations given the testimony of the police officers. Those options are on your screen. 1, they're more credible now. 2, they've suffered a major blow. 3, you are confused on what exactly to believe. Scan the QR code that is on your screen right now to weigh in on this conversation. You can also send us a WhatsApp message, voice note, or a video, and that number also on your screen, 072 110 5584. Let me repeat it for you, 072 110 5584. So make sure that you interact with us on those particular issues that we've raised for you. But for now, let's get the show on the road. All right, good afternoon. We start here. Vincent Leshabane, the retired police general who was supervising the Mewa case between 2015 and 2016, returned to the witness stand this week to testify or to continue with his cross-examination by the state. And among some of the questions he had to field was around the initial arrest of the alleged lookout man, and that is Muzi Sibiya. Now, the state took Leshabane through Sibiya's previous testimony. Take a look.
Zungu, was he a police officer? Then accused number 1 answers yes, they allege that he is a police officer.
My lord, they are putting false allegations against Zungu. I know that Zungu is saying a lot of things here, but my lord, Zungu was not there. And if he was there, my lord, how stupid will I be really to take the person who is feared by Zungu and say Zungu must be here with my members there? It's not allowed, my lord.
Others, either any, accused 1 Leshabane, then Mr. Mgongozulu. Is there anyone else? Makubo. He then says then Baloi and Mudau.
My lord, I want to put it very straight for the court to have more information. Makubo, the time Muzi was arrested, was not even there. He was only called over the weekend, my lord. So I'm shocked. Now I start to believe that now the team of Gininda called the right people.
All right, they continued with testimony around Sibiya being let go of. Take a look.
One of them said that this person knows nothing, let this person go.
He's lying because of, he said he only knows about the drugs, but with the case of Senzo Moiwa, and he said, I know nothing about that one. And it's where I said, please, this man, take him to be charged for the drugs. My lord, how can I say he must go if they found drugs with him?
Who was that person? That is now the person that said he must be let go of. He says, who was that person? Do you remember? Then accused 1, Makubo.
My lord, you know, I'm afraid that you are being misled by these people. They are lying. I cannot lie. I'm an old man, my lord. He knows that he's lying. Now, when he's lying like this, that's why I'm saying, now I start to believe that what Zung said with Gwabeni, yes, maybe they can be involved, my lord. I even informed my provincial commissioner and also Ndofu that the way this guy is not connected with the Senzo Moiwa, we can't detain him with for the case of Senzo Moiwa, but you must just be arrested, charged for possession, my lord.
All right, let's bring in my guests. Mabelane and Daniel Morobane Musime are commentators who are following this case. As you know by now, they believe that the state has the right people before the court, while Elton Hart is an attorney with the UJ Law Clinic, as well as Bongiseni Kunene, who will be giving us some legal analysis. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome back to Elton Hart, who couldn't join us last week. But I'll start here in studio. Let me start with you, Mabelane. I mean, when we look at the testimony of Vincent Leshabane around what we've just played, the issue around the initial arrest of Muzi Sibiya and what he says, he also says he is lying in respect of certain parts of that evidence. What are your views on those?
Yes, remember, Linda, it was Muzi Sibiya evidence that when he was arrested the 19th of March 2024, General Sibiya...
2019?
I mean 2019,
yes.
Yeah, 19 March 2019. General Sibiya, Warrant Officer Makubo, and Constable Zungu, and General Leshabane, they were there.
Yeah.
He said he was tortured, and Leshabane was there, insinuating that Leshabane witnessed that torture. But then Leshabane comes, tells the court that these people are lying, and he's wondering why are they lying so much, and he's starting to believe that they are lying because they were involved in this case. So it is true that the testimony, I mean, when Baloyi took him through that version from Muzi Sibiya, it became clear that Leshabane said he was lying, and that corroborates Zungu as well, that Muzi was never there. On that day, it was just the four of them, which means the General Leshabane, Makubo, Constable Zungu, and then in that meeting where Muzi was. And that meeting didn't happen on the 19th of May 2019.
Yeah.
It in fact happened either the Saturday or Sunday, which is the 24th or 25th, somewhere there. So that goes hard into the credibility of Muzi Sibiya, because he lied about torture, and it is up to Rata to evaluate how he takes forward that evidence, but it eats into his credibility.
Yeah, and let me come to you, Danny. I mean, one of the aspects that Leshabane is quite, pushing back against is the idea of having a Muzi Sibiya as well as a Constable Zungu in one place. He says he knew that Zungu was very scared of Muzi Sibiya, and that this information about Muzi's whereabouts came from Zungu, so he couldn't have put them in one room.
Greetings, Linda. In answering that question, please allow me to give some brief feedback to the nation as to where we are coming from and where we are with this trial. This chapter commences on the 27th of October 2020. 5 men appear before the Boksburg Magistrate Court. They are accused of the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. One of them is fortunate enough, that is accused number 4, to have a family member who publicly pronounced that she is a professional scriptwriter. Scripts get to be written about the innocence of these 5 gentlemen. But the script, Linda, acknowledges that they've got their own shenanigans, but not on the Senzo Meyiwa matter. But the script goes on to create an innocent one amongst the 5, Bongani Ntanzi, accused number 2. Campaigns ensues around Bongani Ntanzi. There are 3 Ntanzi campaigns. Students drop out of university advocating for justice, thinking these people are innocently being accused. Over the past 2 months, Linda, Bongani Ntanzi has had an opportunity to tell the court one simple thing. Mr. Hart often reminds us that the accused does not have an obligation to prove anything. Bongani Ntanzi and Muzi Sibiya had one little thing to do, to tell the court where they were. This week was disastrous for them, with General Leshabane disowning Muzi Sibiya's version, to answer your question. But taking along 5 of them, like my brother Mabelane said, and the insert that we just played. Leshabane says, I'm beginning to think that these people are involved. Why are they so much lying to the court? This was a bad week for both Muzi Sibiya, Linda, and Bongani Ntanzi, to answer your question.
All right, let me bring in Alton Hart on that particular aspect. I mean, you know, one of the things that was quite interesting about this particular testimony, Alton, is the fact that whatever that retired General Leshabane thinks of himself, he's still a defense witness called by Bongani Ntanzi, right? But we find ourselves having discussions about accused number 1, because primarily this particular witness speaks about Muzi Sibiya a lot. And he then breaks into the heart of Muzi's defense when it comes to those confession statements. The assault, he told us during his evidence in chief, started in 2019. But here is an officer who, of course, would have been around at that particular time saying there was no such assault. What does this do to him, in your view?
Now, obviously, for me, I look at it from 2 sides of the spectrum, because here, this thing, one can view it from the side to say that it breaks into Muzi Sibiya's defense in saying that he might not be seen as a credible witness and actually maybe not taking the court into his confidence. But it also, one should not lose sight that what General Leshabane said also is like, it's also weakening the state's case on the other side of the spectrum. And these 2 things is what the court will have to eventually evaluate to say, listen, yeah, when we talk about credibility, how do we go about actually establishing which of these 2 witnesses should be sort of have believed, or who should we attach more weight to his or her evidence. So that is how the court will have to play it. But I think the fact that Muzi, maybe General Leshabane is saying that this thing or the torture did not happen, I don't see it as totally detrimental to Muzi Sibiya's case in essence, because we don't know. And I mean, if we jog down memory lane 3 weeks ago, when we didn't hear what Leshabane was saying, Zungu's thing was still the topic of the day. So we must still see how it unfolds and see how it goes, but it will eventually come down to the court making that credibility finding to say, listen, yeah, I should maybe attach more weight to this than that, and maybe not saying that these things, and take it maybe to see there will be circumstances that come up why the witness answered in the way that he answered pertaining to the alleged assault.
Sibongiseni, let me come to you. I mean, you've heard what Alton Hart has had to say. Do you share similar sentiments?
Good afternoon, Linda, as well as the guests and your viewers at home. Somehow, I share the same sentiments, because when Leshabane was talking about the assault, we remember very well when Advocate George Baloyi was cross-examining Leshabane. Leshabane then didn't want to maybe to commit himself about knowledge. The versions which were put by Mr. Mgomezulu, who was Muzi's attorney by then, I don't see the clear part on it which says that Leshabane also was there, because I remember when Baloyi was putting those versions to Leshabane, and then Leshabane says, I was not there, right? And I cannot comment about what happened there because I was not there. So I think he's simply saying, well, he cannot confirm or neither deny whether there's something that happened. We are going to start from the time when Muzi was arrested. There is a version that says that he was pointed with firearms, and then the assault started at that point. And then Leshabane said, remember, I just left at the time when myself and Zoom, then we have already identified the guy. I was not there. I don't know what happened after, but I cannot confirm neither deny that he was assaulted. And the second version also, that's also mentioned about an assault that took place, whether it's at or near the particular offices of Leshabane. Then Leshabane says it's not in my presence. And then wherever he was assaulted, if he was ever assaulted, he was not there. So then he cannot refute, not unless then, if then now you're going to talk about feasible that Muzi says he put a version that he was bleeding and all the stuff, then Leshabane can comment on that part, can say, well, at the time when he was brought before me, I didn't see any bruises, I didn't see Muzi bleeding and stuff thereof. That is where maybe he can comment about.
And I want us to take a quick ad break, but when we come back, we continue on this theme of Leshabane's cross-examination, because there's quite a lot that Leshabane also had to say, so stick around for that. Welcome back, and thank you for choosing to stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching Inside the Courtroom, the Senzo Mewa murder trial. Let me continue with my guests in studio. We're reflecting on the evidence of Vincent Leshabane, who was cross-examined this past week. Mabelane, let me bring you back into the conversation. Last week, we had a lengthy discussion about the firearm and whatnot, right? And this week, we hear that Vincent Leshabane saying that, well, he's pleased with the ballistics report.
Yes, he said he's pleased with the ballistic report because he cannot challenge the evidence of the ballistic expert. But then what was shocking from Leshabane was he was all over the place looking for the firearm, that he doesn't know the make of that firearm. And it seems to have dribbled Leshabane and Munisi that you need the firearm to determine the type of the caliber and the firearm that is used. But we know in ballistic science, there is what we call class characteristics. The class characteristics tells you the type and the caliber of the firearm, even if you don't know or you don't have that firearm in your position. It is for this reason, in November 2014, just a few days after Senzo was killed, Mangena does ballistic test for a firearm that came from Chikotwala, and then he found it to be negative. But inside the report, which went into the case docket, he says this projectile comes from a 9mm firearm. But then Leshabane doesn't go through that ballistic report or that cover letter that says this is the type of firearm, and he still goes around with the notion of looking for a revolver when there is nothing about the revolver within the docket. That is why I believe he was not going to solve this case before he goes to retirement, because his approach was a bit misplaced there.
Yeah, let me come to you, Danny, on this very same topic around this firearm. You know, last week we had quite a lengthy conversation about this particular firearm, and we know through the version or the testimony of Mangena that he still stuck to the idea or to the notion that this was a 9mm that shot here. And this is a witness again who said there was this description of, you know, a revolver.
The most important revelation for me, Linda, is General Leshabane affirming the testimony of Lieutenant Colonel Mangena. But he reveals something more important again. He says, it was me who instructed that every gun that is found on a crime scene must be checked against the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. Remember, Lieutenant Colonel Mangena told us that he inspected about 20-something plus guns, and none of them, Linda, could match. And people often tell us that this case is cooked, and we ask them a question. If this case it is cooked, why would Lieutenant Colonel Mangena not match one of those 20 guns up until the real gun comes in 2015? But for me, again, Linda, over and above General Leshabane affirming Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, he tells us something important again. He says he destroys Muzi Sibiya's case. He says, I'm being told that this guy provided a confession to Colonel Mboto, and that guy I trust. My Lord, if this confession was taken by Mboto, accept it as it is.
Yeah, and this is quite interesting because one of the other things that came from Leshabane, right, before I go to our legal analysts, is the issue of Makubo, because then he speaks about why Makubo did not believe that accused number 5 was involved. And I want us to take a listen to that bite, because then we again hear of accused number 5's version, whether or not when Senzo Meyiwa was killed, he was arrested.
The version of accused number 5, Nkani Ntuli, is that he was not in prison on the 26th of October 2014.
I cannot dispute that, my Lord.
So if the import of what Warrant Officer Makubo was saying was that in response to what Constable Zungu was saying, that Nkani was involved in the Senzo Meyiwa case, if the import thereof is that he was in prison on the 26th of October 2014, that will not be correct.
Now, if Makubu is saying that he was not in prison, and then Makubu says that he was in prison, it's another story.
Yes.
Manje.
Last week, you were very critical of the role that Vincent Leshabane played in this particular, matter, in that those questions about when exactly accused number 5 would have been arrested are questions that Leshabane ought to have asked once Makubu said, it can't be him, I arrested him.
This aspect, Linda, that we just played is what I refer to as the magical moment of General Leshabane's testimony, accounting for what he could have done, what he did not do. And it becomes clear that he made simple reliance on Warrant Officer Makubo's statement that it could have not been him. But we said previously that once he says that, he will be confronted with accused number 5's own version that he was at George Koch, and there's evidence to support his version that he was at George Koch at around 2:45, Mabelane.
5:25.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's quite interesting that you remember those granular details, because this came from also the pictures that were found in the phone of accused number 3.
In fact, that is a time when that picture was taken, that he was in George Koch. I mean, the defense tries to be smart in this case, Linda. The context is simple. Zungu says accused number 5 is involved. Makubo's response is, he cannot be involved because I arrested him. In what context? In the context of the Senzo Meyiwa murder. So if he says he arrested him, Leshabane should have followed up to say, when did you arrest him? Because he was not arrested on that day. He was there in George Koch. His version is that he was at work. So that's another place where I think the investigation back then dropped the ball, because they never followed the case further. And whereas Makubo calls, Leshabane calls Makubo, whom that he doesn't believe that there were intruders. And this is a guy who, I mean, on that day in March, when General Leshabane called Makubo had already opened case 37501 of 2019 because he moved away from the case 636. So he was not going to be of value in case 636 because his attention, together with that one of the then Captain Butelis, was of 375. So there was a lot of dropping the ball as far as this investigation is concerned up until Brigadier Gininda, who is, the then Colonel Gininda, the now Brigadier Gininda emerged.
Yeah, Sandy, let me come to you. I saw you nodding as Mabelane was, touching on those points around the firearm and also around the version of accused number 5.
Well, Linda, let's start here on the version of accused number 5. I don't know when that version was put. Maybe I might have forgotten the evidence. But as far as the version which I remember that invited a comment from Makubo by Ngomezulu, when he said, I think there was this Sizotini commission or something like that. If I'm not mistaken, the version was that Zungu has told Makubo and General Leshabane that he has seen accused number 5 at or near Tembisa. And then I think there is a misinterpretation of that version. I don't know how, but that's how I remember the version. Not that accused number 5 then was arrested by the time wherein the set incident of Senzo Meiwa happened. As I remember the version during trial within a trial when it was put by Ngomezulu, it was something like he has seen accused number 5 at or near the Tembisa, then that is why Makubo was shocked because he knew that by that time accused number 5 could not be at or near that particular area because he arrested him. Then that's where I'm just a little bit confused about how this was scripted in the transcript. But nonetheless, in issue of the firearm, I don't think. Let
me just interject there. Yes. Because the issue around the version of accused number 5 is a version that came from his own lawyer, if I'm not mistaken, right? Zandile Mshololo. She put that version on record around where accused number 5 was.
On the day in question?
On the day in question, yes.
That he puts the version that accused number 5 was arrested in 2014.
No. What she says is that on the 26th of October 2014, accused number 5 was at work, later on met with accused number 3 and 4, right? And of course, if my memory serves me well, this was around the discussion of whether or not they could have possibly been at the hostel. Let me bring you in, Mabelane, on this one because you seem you will be able to assist us.
I will assist. There are two versions. The one that Sibongiseni is talking about is one version, is one side of the story, which Zungu said. But in this testimony, General Leshabane says, now we are talking about the testimony of General Leshabane, and let's not confuse it with what my brother is talking about. General Leshabane says, when we were there with Makubo and General Sibiya, Zungu said, Nkani is also involved. And he mentioned Nkani's name for the first time. And when he says Nkani is also involved, General Makubo responds right there to say, Nkani cannot be involved because I arrested him. So, but the state is saying, if then Makubo says Nkani cannot be involved, he arrested him, it is in the context of being involved in the sense of Meiwa matter. So, did he arrest him on the 26th of October? Hence, he cannot be involved. That is where it comes from. It doesn't come from what Zungu said. That's one part. It comes from what Leshabane said himself.
About what Makubo. So you can continue with that point if that's the clarity you sought.
In fact, that's the clarity I sought, because the clip which was played and even the one that Baloyi put, in fact, there was an element of confusion there. I understand the evidence of Leshabane, right?
Yeah.
And correctly so that Zungu, when he informed Makubo about accused number 5, and then I don't understand the importance of mentioning that accused number 5, then I arrested him, if accused number 5 was not arrested in 2014. But the other version which was put by Mbomezulu does not speak to that. And nonetheless, I don't know how then it happens to confuse even the testimony of Leshabane during the time when he was cross-examined.
Yeah, let me quickly bring you in there, Alton, before we go to the break. We're discussing the issue around the version of accused number 5 and this ballistics report that Leshabane says he's happy with.
Now, for me, I look at General Leshabane. General Leshabane was an investigator, but not a ballistics expert. So you can't really put a lot of emphasis on what he says about accepting it or not disputing it. Yeah. So that's one thing. But what I've heard now, my fellow panelists we were discussing for the last maybe 7-8 minutes was doubt. And that is, for me, when you look as a defense attorney, you see that there is too many doubts that's within these stories. And the mere fact that the state had Leshabane as a witness and did not call it, for me, courts normally think that you had this guy and he's not fully supporting your case and you didn't want to call him. The defense had to call him. So for me, that creates a lot of doubt. And when there's doubt, we know who the doubt needs to favor. So when we talk about the ballistics, we should not be jumping the gun and get happy saying, this is what Leshabane is saying. We must first wait until Ntuli. He's right at the end, number 5. We don't know, because I know there was a story that they are going to call a ballistics expert that is going to testify on behalf of the defense. And the story of the 9mm, the revolver, that thing is also, for me, it's not clear-cut what was it. It was
Alton,
the state's version of events, and Alton, we take it there.
Yeah, Alton, I'm going to have to interject there. Sorry a bit. We'll come back with that point because we have to take a paid ad break. So more of Alton's views when we come back.
On behalf of the state.
Join us as an officer of the court, and I also spoke to my superiors.
He was never assaulted, no, wasn't done. Welcome back, and thank you for choosing to stay with us. We're still reflecting on the cross-examination of Vincent Leshabane by the state. And before we took an ad break, Alton Hart was still weighing in on the issue of the firearm. And Alton, just to remind you there that the evidence of the firearm is against accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube. So I'll let you continue.
No. I know the firearm in question that they say that actually delivered the fatal shot to Senzo Mayiwa was found in accused number 3's possession. So that I'm fine with that part. But I'm just saying one should be very wary of actually drawing conclusive remarks or making conclusive remarks already, because we don't know what the defense is going to call. Just like we didn't know that Leshabane is going to bring this revelations that is sort of half working or weakening the narrative of the state. So we need to wait and see what is the defense team going to bring pertaining to their ballistics expert and how does it match up to say, was it really conclusively a revolver or a 9mm pistol that was used? Currently, we know the state is supporting the version to say it was a 9mm pistol that was used. And I would say, and people can disagree with me, that crime scene, the first day they went there, they didn't find projectiles. Only on the second day, and it was a crime scene that was left unattended. And for me, that creates doubt. And when there's doubt, defense attorneys are normally happy when there's doubt. But that's my 2 cents on that part.
Yeah. Let me bring you in, Sibongiseni. I see you're shaking your head. Let me bring you in there.
Yes, Linda, I don't think you can say automatically just because of a crime scene was contaminated and then there is doubt. You just need to look at the circumstances around it. And it's not even an issue for determination in this matter because the state has already considered that the crime scene was compromised. But then when a crime scene has been compromised, then are we then going to say whatever that is going to be recovered there, then we're going to disregard it? We look at as to how you cure the chain of custody whatsoever of an exhibit that is going to be recovered from such a crime scene. We are not going to disregard that such evidence. In this scenario, we know that there is Mr. Mangena who then started to compare insofar as this firearm is concerned from the case of Alexander. Then that is another exercise trying to cure the issue in respect of chain of custody. Why was he doing that? He wanted to demonstrate that even if you want to suggest that this could not be a firearm belonging to accused number 3, you start there. And then in the Alexander case, this firearm is the one, in fact, that convicted the said accused. It's an exercise to try just to cure all these issues insofar as the compromise of the crime scene. You go to the pathologists, and the pathologists then they measure the entry wound as well as the exit wound, and also compare it with the size of the projectile that was recovered there. So those issues you can't just disregard it by the fact that a crime scene has been compromised.
Yeah, let me just, as we wrap it up, right, on Leshabane's evidence, gentlemen in studio, I want us to reflect on where this puts Constable Sizwe Zungu, right, in light of the evidence of Absalom Zungu, Makosonke, Gwabini himself, but also now Leshabane, right? Obviously, Leshabane says the state did not want to call him because they regarded information that he had or he heard as hearsay evidence. But in the context of, you know, the source of the information and where everything came from, the court will obviously want to approach Zungu's evidence with caution, no?
Yes, they will obviously approach it with caution, but Zungu's evidence or Zungu's testimony is corroborated by independent witnesses or independent statements. Remember, there is a statement of Makosonge and Gwabini that is before court, which obviously still have to be proven. The court will make a determination on that. There is also an objective evidence which comes from Pinky from Vodacom. Pinky places the accused there in the vicinity of Foslora's hostel. They try to place themselves in Lesedi. Pinky said, you can never be in Lesedi. You have never connected to Lesedi Tower. In any case, if Lesedi Tower is down, you must go to Foslora's West. So you were never in Lesedi, according to the objective evidence of Pinky. And then the cell phone of accused number 3 leaves Foslora's hostel around 3:30. Zungu said they left around 3:30. That was the last time he saw them. So Zungu's testimony, it is corroborated by objective evidence, one being the Vodacom and the cell phone linked to accused number 3.
Yeah, let me bring you in there.
Constable Zungu further testifies that when they returned around 9, I see accused number 3 handing over a 9mm to Gwabini. Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, in his report, he says, the projectile that was found by Warrant Officer Mshadlo is that of a 9mm. General Leshabane, Linda says, I cannot argue with Mangena. He's an expert. I can't even interview him. And just to correct or clarify my brother, Mr. Hart, we know, as a matter of evidence, what the defense ballistic expert is going to say. Mr. Sipora Musepili put it to Colonel Mangena and Colonel Sereo that Dave Peters is going to come and tell the court that he performed what in ballistic language they call a known non-match. He's going to come and tell the court that his findings were inconclusive. And we know at the FSL what they do when the finding is inconclusive. They get a second, third, and fourth opinion, which is exactly what Lieutenant Colonel Mangena did.
Let me bring you in, Elton, because you seem to disagree with what Danny is saying.
I'm not disagreeing what Danny is saying. Danny is actually now just speaking to what I've been advocating the whole time.
Yeah.
It is that once you start having these things, there is doubt. And our criminal law is clear. When there's doubt, you have to give it to the accused person. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that these types of evidence does not exist, but how the court will evaluate it and what evidentiary weight the court will put to these things now becomes an issue, because now you have these conflicting things that's working. And the thing that my brother Mabalani was saying about the cell phone towers, I also want to just put this on the table. Guys should not think that the cell phone towers put you in a specific range. What cell phone towers does is actually, it sends your signal to the strongest tower. So those things cannot be concluded also sometimes. It can also create doubt. And if the defense was clever enough, they would have called somebody who has the knowledge of these transmitter towers to come and say, this is not the only conclusion that you can draw. And once again, you put doubt on the table. And that is the job of a defense attorney. You just need to create doubt in the court to say that, yes, there is not just one inference you can draw from this evidence, but a couple. And then, you know, the court needs to give the benefit of the doubt to the accused. And that's how you should pen it. And the mere fact that Ramusipili teased with what the ballistics expert is going to say, I've got news. That ballistic expert is going to say much more than what my brother Danny was saying there pertaining to these things. But we'll leave it for that time when he testifies.
Mr. Morgan, you're shaking your head.
No, I was disagreeing with this. I think with my learned colleague on the points that he says the strongest tower, but it's not only the factor that contribute. Also the distance plays a role, which is why Pinky, when he was testifying, he started by placing distances insofar as these towers. This one is how many kilometers, this one, urban, and all those issues are playing a role. So insofar as when they put a version about that, we were at that particular shopping center. Then Pinky went straight to possible towers which are at or near that particular center and look at as well as the distance and say this is the towers that can only ping, or if then any of an individual is within that particular area, then could ping within these towers based on the radius, whether on the stronger signal and stuff thereof. But because of the distance, you guys, you're supposed to be pinging in this particular tower, not this one, what you are talking about, because the transaction was showing the one in Foslo, I think the one that, which is inside Basutini Hostel, that particular tower. And that has been also been confirmed by the address which Muzi Sibiya gave it to the bank at the time when he was opening his account. That is how they link that tower in that particular transaction.
Yeah, and with the firearm, quickly?
In respect of the firearm, I don't think it will be fair to comment about it now inconclusively so. But the evidence that is there, well, we'll wait up until Dave come and refute it. We don't know the report because when Mangena was there, he said they requested the report from Dave to know what exactly is. Then he refused to give them the report. Nonetheless, there is a version that he put, which then is it's concise with what my brother Danny said about the non-match. I don't know what the experiments that is going to demonstrate about it, whether, but insofar as what Ramsipile said, they are not much far apart with Mangena.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when you consider the issue of the expert, Sibongiseni, we've heard not only from Mangena, but other colleagues as well who did a peer review, who also looked at his results and came to the same conclusion as him.
Yeah, that's correct. That's what they said. But nonetheless, we can't just use a number of people and say just because 20 people are saying this, and then we're going to disregard the credibility of Dave. Let's say Dave come and prove his scientific, then we can't just disregard.
Yeah, my point here is the fact that what we seem to not, even in the version that was placed, because the state witnesses needed to respond, right, to what the version of Dave Pieterse is going to be. So in that version that is placed, they're not saying this is not the firearm.
I can't comment about that, what he's saying, because I will wait for Dave to put his evidence into details. That is when we can say if they are contradicting, because why will we have Dave if then Dave is agreeing completely with Mangena? So it's just a futile exercise to have him. Why will you have him?
Yeah.
It won't.
Elton, we've run out of time. I want to bring you in. Just quickly weigh in there.
Now, as I said, with ballistics, obviously one needs to listen to what the ballistics expert's saying. But from what I gathered, he's not going to say the same thing as the SEPS or the state's ballistics expert pertaining to the, what transpired. But obviously one needs to listen to say, listen, yeah, let's first start foremost and to say the projectile, did it come out of a revolver or 9mm pistol? Then we can narrow it down to say, okay, irrespective of what the eyewitnesses say that they saw something that looks like a revolver, this is now, it's conclusive, it comes out of a 9mm. Now accused was found with a 9mm pistol, and now this projectile is linked to a cartridge that came out of that 9mm. Then we should be on the clear with the state's narrative, but at this point in time, it's still shaky. So I will wait for Dave Peters to come and tell us what did he find compared to the state. Because remember, my brother Danny referred to the Cook case. So let's see if they can uncook the case. But I still want to come to this thing of the cell phone data. Guys, believe you me, cell phone data, I've dealt with cases like this. Strongest tower is not in distance, like I disagree with Mbongiseni, my colleague there, on the, because these things overlap. I've seen it practically. And for me, it doesn't say they were in a specific zone. I've seen it. I have first-hand experience how these things burn. So I would leave it at that.
All right. Let's quickly check in with your WhatsApp messages. We did ask you to weigh in on the conversation that we're having today. And these are the WhatsApp messages that we have from Anonymous, who says, Muzi Sibiya was not assaulted. He is a liar and even lied about Leshabane. The defense is defeated. They're just trying to capitalize on technicalities using records. The cell phone was also within Danzi. It just wasn't recorded. So that is a message that's coming in there from Anonymous. Let's check in with another message. This one is coming from Mike, who says, good afternoon, Linda. Muzi was never assaulted, nor wasn't Danzi. The police officers disputed those claims, stating they visit the cells from time to time and never received a complaint from him. These boys are not telling the truth. So those are the WhatsApp messages that are coming through. Anonymous says the defense strategy is to win this case via technicalities because accused 1 and 2 have no alibis, and their strategy is putting their clients in deeper trouble. So those are the WhatsApp messages that are coming through from our WhatsApp line that, of course, we invited you to, send us your messages through. So make sure that you get in touch with us. Let's quickly take an ad break. When we come back, we look ahead at what to expect. Welcome back. Let's continue with this conversation. We're reflecting on the proceedings this past week from the Senzo Meyo murder trial. Gentlemen in studio, you're also itching to respond to that.
Yes, Linda, you know, if we are going to approach the evidence before court as what if, like my brother Elton is saying, we are going to have a problem. There is no evidence before court that the cell phone towers were overlapping. It was never put to Bingi. Let's focus at the evidence before. The evidence before court, Bingi ruled out as an expert from Vodacom. She ruled out that these guys would have been in Fosloras. And he said, I mean in Lesedi, she said, if you were in Lesedi, this is what you would have, this is what your phone could have connected to, these towers. She never said, in case they overlap, you may be, no, that's not the evidence before court. Otherwise, we are going to speculate and say, what if? The evidence before court is clear. There is no overlapping. And on the issue of firearm, remember, it is the version of the defense that said, this projectile was planted. And the reason Mangena matched this bullet, it is because it is fired from the firearm that it was supposed to be fired from. It is planted. Now they are saying, no, it is not planted. In fact, it doesn't match, moving away from their own version. They will have to address Rata on that issue. Lastly, on whether it's 9mm or revolver, it is clear before court that this is 9mm because even Dave, when he came to pick the projectile, he said, my lord, this is a projectile from 9mm. So that is not in dispute whether it's a 9mm. The defense witness himself, he said, this is a projectile from 9mm.
Let's close it, Linda. While my friends Wengiseni and Mr. Hart are waiting for Dave, Judge Rata Mokgwatleng placed a huge mountain in front of the defense. In his section 174 ruling, he made it explicit that Lieutenant Colonel Mangena proved beyond, he used the words beyond reasonable doubt.
Interesting. Interesting very much. I see Elton is shaking his head. And I want to bring both of you in because you seem to really disagree with the gentleman here in studio. Elton, let's go.
No, and I hear my brother Mabalani saying the evidence is before court. The evidence of the state is before the court, not the defense. He's looking at the half-baked cake here. And you need to look at the evidence in totality. Yeah. And I said to you, Linda, you can remember, you can jog down memory lane. I said maybe there was a disservice by the back then defense counsels in not probing Vicky by telling him properly about these things. Because I can tell you, I can give you a book with cell phone evidence, is that sometimes a tower will show you that you are in Phosphorus, but you are not in Phosphorus, you are in a neighboring neighborhood. And people can take me to task whether they can go and read up on these things. So I'm just saying there was a disservice, but I'm saying the evidence of the state is before the court completely. The defense evidence is not there. And if we want to have this conversation, then we have to wait until this defense closes their case, and then we can say, now it's conclusive. And the mere fact that my brother Danny is saying that they say a judge, already if a judge makes in a 174 to say with beyond reasonable doubt he believes a certain witness, then it means that his views were obscured, biased, and that opens you up for appeal. These are the things that happens in court on a daily. So the judge saying that doesn't mean that it is this guy's Mangena's evidence cannot be challenged. So we need to leave room and say, let's see what the others is doing first before we come to this conclusive remarks.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to quickly to Ntabiseng Litlaka from Valeria Police Station and her evidence relating to the time or the events with the detention of some of the accused.
Yeah. Ntabiseng was Tlaka was called to come and give testimony, and she obviously had an engagement with Muzi on the day Muzi was arrested. So we have got two police officers, the station commander who said Muzi was never launched any complaint, he didn't see any injuries. Tlaka said she engaged Muzi, they didn't see any injuries. or Muzi never complain about torture. So I don't know why will the state call witnesses who are going to, the defense call the witnesses who are going to support the state case and rebut their own version.
Yeah, and just quickly, we've run out of time. What do you expect going forward?
We expect a new witness. There was a new witness, Linda, that the defense consulted with, and obviously, what do you do when the witness that you are consulting with tells you that I know there was a cell phone taken? You say to the witness, go back home. So unfortunately, Captain Rabotata never gave testimony, and we ask ourselves, what did Rabotata say? Did he say he knows Mangena and Mabena with the cell phone? And then they sent him home. They subpoenaed him to come. He came, and then they said, no, go back home after consultation. What do they want the court to make out of that?
Yeah, and with you, Letlaka's testimony as well as what you're expecting, Danny?
Sergeant Tlhaka, like my brother Mabelani is saying, introduced a very important witness that we know as a matter of fact that the witness was returned from the doorstep of the court. That is Captain Rabotata. We are hoping that Judge Rata is going to increase the number of witnesses that he wants to call in terms of Section 186 of the Criminal Procedure Act and include Captain Rabotata. This is a witness, Linda, who's going to assist the court in resolving the cell phone issue.
All right, Smogiseni, you're laughing quickly. We've run out of time.
I don't know about this captain. In fact, I don't know what he said. I've never heard him even coughing in that court. So I won't even just refer to what he said and what he's going to say but nonetheless, whatsoever reason, Ramsipila is the one who knows why he decided not to use the witness. In fact, I was somehow baffled about this lining of Ramsipila. I was under the impression that he's going to call maybe one of the constable, whatever, police who were there at the time, I think being the 23rd, when the Giaco came to consult just to come and refute those issues. Maybe he's still going to call them. Let me just wait and be patient.
Elton, 10 seconds. We've run out of time. What do you expect?
No, also for me, it's, and I would go again and I say these guys, if they dealt with the state's witnesses, and I would say with the state's witnesses properly at some intersections, we would have had a different topic, but that ship has sailed. I'm still looking forward to what the defense is going to call, and what I currently see there's a lot of doubt.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. I'm already being beaten up that we're running beyond schedule. That brings us to the end of the show. These are the final poll results that we asked you, of course, to weigh in on. But thank you very much for watching. So 76% of you saying that he suffered a major blow when it comes to that particular issue around the assault. Until next week, bye-bye.